In Bugatti's search for more power in 1914, he decided to build a special version of his little 8-valve engine with 4 valves per cylinder, something which nowadays our German and Japanese friends are extolling the virtues of. He produced 3 engines for a water-rat race, which was unfortunately cancelled by the war in August 1914. But he buried the engines, or at least the top half of the engine, the new parts of the engine, at Molsheim when he left for Italy and then later France during the war, where he spent all his time designing aero engines. Well, these engines were dug up after the war when he got his factory back in 1920, and they put them on chassis and entered them in a race at Le Mans in 1920, where he won with what was at that time a sensational speed of 55 miles an hour. This created a sensation in the press because no small car at that time was able to be driven so fast. And this really started Bugatti's reputation post-war as a maker of racing cars. And in the year following, he improved it still further by building some engines with roller bearings on the big ends and on the crankshaft, and entered 5 cars into the Brescia race in Italy for water-rats, and came in and took the first 4 places at sensational speed. All this really cemented his reputation and got him into business as a successful producer of racing and sports cars. The success at Brescia led him to call the model the Brescia model, and forever afterwards it was known throughout its production run until it finished in early 1926 as the Brescia Bugatti, in honor of the win at Brescia. On this Brescia engine, you've got the cylinder block down here with its 4 valves, 2 inlet and 2 exhaust, and on top of it you have this aluminium casting, the cam box. In that rotates the camshaft. This is a typical camshaft. You can see the 4 cams here, 2 inlet, 2 exhaust. And then the problem Bugatti had, indeed all engine designers have had, is how to transmit the motion of the cam into the actual pushing of the valve. The classic solution is some sort of rocker or finger which oscillates up and down to act between the cam and the thing. But Bugatti, with typical ingenuity, thought of a different solution. He had what we call, jokingly now, banana tappets. These are arc-shaped followers, rectangular in section, but arc-shaped in side view. And these operate on the cam being pushed up and down by the cam as the cam rotates, the 4 different ones for the 4 different cams. And then at the other end, as they push up and down, this end operates the valves. These show the 4 valve centers. Well, he produced a batch of these little short chassis, so-called Type 13 racing cars, what was called in England the full Brescia, or the genuine racing Brescia. And 2 of them came to England fairly quickly. And the first one was bought by a young racing undergraduate from Cambridge called Raymond Mays, who successfully campaigned the car and was winning every hill climb there was in the period 1922 to 1924. Meanwhile, production of the more subdued and longer wheelbase touring models continued using the same 16-valve engine, although the engine was slightly simplified. It only had, for example, a single magneto rather than the twin magnetos which you had on the racing one. And that was actually the most successful Bugatti ever made. They produced over 2,000, which is more than any other Bugatti model in the production run, as we said, up till early 1926. One advantage of the success that Bugatti achieved and all the publicity it was getting was that it interested other manufacturers in taking a license of the little car. First of all, Diato in Italy talked a bit and took a license, gave Bugatti some much needed money, although they don't appear to produce very many cars. There is one in existence still, as far as we know, in a museum in France, but otherwise the mark has disappeared. The next license was to a firm called Rabag, the Rhein Automobilbau in Germany, who took a license and made quite a few of these cars, which are rather pretty and quite effective, although they altered them slightly. They altered the radiator a bit to have a bulge on it, although basically it was similar in style and shape to the Bugatti one.